most important thing for me about being a pantomime producer is to try and make pantomime better, to try and keep moving it forward, to keep moving at a pace that other theatrical forms of entertainment do. So that's why we've introduced special effects, that's why we try to keep the production values to the kind of level that the public deserve and the kind of level that pantomime deserves. We have a phrase and it's, we have to top last year, which means you've got to be one step of the game ahead all of the time. Whoever produces a pantomime, somebody has one style, another producer has another. So inevitably, there will be things that I think are lacking in other pantomimes that some would look at my shows or our shows and say, oh, that element is missing from what they do. But I think it's very hard to pinpoint one thing that's not there because no pantomime is the same. One size in pantomime certainly does not fit all. And every theatre, even sometimes in the same town, every theatre needs something different. Everything's got to have its own unique selling point. Everything has to have the reason why that pantomime works and it wouldn't work anywhere else. And if they all became the same, then it wouldn't make it special for that place. So it has to be different. The best thing I can ever say about pantomime is it's all subjective. And what one man on the street might think is the best pantomime he's ever seen, somebody else might think is a heap of rubbish. And that's good, that's healthy for the industry. I think tradition's important to acknowledge it, to remember that it exists, to remember what went before, but I'm absolutely not locked in, we must do this and we must do that because it's tradition. And if you don't do new things, then there will be no new traditions. So you can nod to it. You can, in Scotland, for example, they love doing the clwt, bringing in a song sheet. In Edinburgh, we choose not to do that every year. It's a tradition, but we don't do it every year. A ghost scene is a tradition. In 11 years of directing the Newcastle Theatre Royal Pantomime, I've never done a ghost scene. This year, I'm going to do a ghost scene. So the traditions are there to be respected, but I don't think you have to stick by them. I would always bring a villain on from the left and a fairy from the right. I would always do that. But that's probably one of the few traditions that I would completely stick to. Pantomime is a celebration of local culture. All local cultures are different, so you've got to think about that when you're creating the show. And again, I feel as though if I have an instinct for anything, it's to be able to say what will work in what theatre. And that's just by thinking and learning and listening to the audience. I'm interested in making sure that it's set in the village, what is local to the audience, or that the comic can talk to the audience and feel as though they're one of them. One of the great things with working with Elaine C. Smith in Scotland was always that I felt that every Glaswegian woman felt as though they were her best friend. But I don't think pantomime needs, in 2 hours, 20 minutes, to have to comment on society. I'd much rather it was just funny. I don't know if there's a secret to it, but you absolutely have to love it. Pantomime is not like putting on a play, it's not like putting on a musical, it's not like doing a one-nighter tour. You have to live, breathe, eat pantomime, especially if you're going to produce multiple pantomimes. I think you do have to know very much what your style is and believe in that style. I have things that I like, and if other people don't like them, I actually don't care. It's what I like, and I believe that's why we've been successful with my specific shows, because what I like, the audiences seem to like as well. You've got to know how you want the story to play. You've got to know where the laughs need to be. For example, I'll give you one secret. Any comic that's ever worked with me will always tell you that I always say the most important routine in the show is the first piece of comedy after the interval. Because I genuinely believe they've had the first half, everybody's had an opening spot, you'll have had a big set piece, you'll have closed the first half, probably in one of my shows, in a hugely spectacular way. You've sent them to the interval, you've given them an opening number, and now what? And whatever you give them there, I think starts to make the second half. So I'm very, very careful about what I put there. And it might not necessarily be the same thing, but I'll always make sure the routine after the second half is something that really gets the audience going. That's a secret. Making the artistic and economics of pantomime marry together is a difficult thing, because inevitably what you want to do is throw as many assets at the show as you can, but you've got to balance that with the size of the theatre and what's affordable and what you've spent on the stars. There's no room for error. They really have to work, they really have to deliver for the audience, hit a certain box office target, otherwise you can be financially in the red. Because if they don't financially work, then it's show business after all, and you can't run pantomimes at a loss. If you ran them at a loss, then you wouldn't be able to invest in anything for the future. Saying that, we haven't set out to make money at the London Palladium. The London Palladium is purely about doing it properly. We've wanted to do pantomime at the Palladium for a long time. It hasn't been something that just happened this year. We always thought if the opportunity ever came up that theatre would be free, and it could only be that theatre. This was never about doing pantomime in the West End. This was about doing pantomime at the London Palladium. Cinderella seemed the obvious one. It is the most famous pantomime of them all. And we managed to start assembling this extraordinary cast. I've got two hats. I've got my pantomime hat and I've got my West End producer's hat. And if you're going to do The Bodyguard, you're going to cast Beverly Knight or Heather Headley or Alexandra Burke. If you're doing Gypsy and you've got Imelda Staunton, it's as important to me that the pantomime has the equivalence. So by casting Julian Clary, who is one of the finest pantomime performers I've ever worked with, Paul O'Grady, who is a sensational pantomime performer, and it's terrific to have him back in a frock at that theatre. Paul Zerden, who you couldn't wish to have a better speciality act, as it were, a ventriloquist playing buttons. Really important that we were able to get those elements and those people to be in the show. We've got a 12-piece orchestra, 32 in the cast, 22 of those people are in the ensemble. We're building a completely new set. From head to toe, sets, costumes, props, everything is brand new, because you can only do it once. And this might be the only opportunity in our lifetime that I get to do pantomime at the Palladium. Nick Thomas feels the same. So if we're going to do it, we do it properly. It's like having a ghost routine. We're not doing a standard, normal ghost routine on a bench where we're giving it a twist. We're turning it into a big haunted bedroom scene. It's just, you've got to be a year ahead of the audience. You've got to know. It's like I know now what Newcastle's pantomime is going to be next year, and it's a title we've never done before because I want to surprise the audience. I think celebrities are important, but it depends what you call celebrities, because as we've proven, Clive Webb and Danny Adams in Newcastle, or May McFetridge in Belfast, Alan Stewart, Andy Gray and Grant Stott in Edinburgh, Billy Pearce in Bradford, they are celebrities in their own right, in their own towns, but they don't have primetime Saturday night TV shows, or they're not in a soap, or they haven't just come off a reality TV show. So celebrity, yes, but maybe not in the kind of definition that you would ordinarily think. They're just loved by the audience. Something has happened in one of those theatres that has made them go from bottom of the bill with star names around them to becoming the person that they want to see. And if the audience love you, then it's very, very easy to sell tickets. We're always looking for new things. When 3D came along, 3D was in pantomime years ago. 30 years ago, when the Crankies were in Birmingham as the top of the bill in Dick Whittington, coincidentally, they had 3D in the show. So it's not new, it's just we brought it back and took it to a new level. Then other places started to do it and did their own versions. And these things come and they go, and we don't do as much 3D as we did 5 years ago, but I know next year we'll probably do a lot more. So it's a cycle. It's all a cycle in pantomime. I mean, music's always a touchy subject. You know, we've got 12 in the orchestra at the Palladium, and then in some other places we'll have a three-piece. It's all supplemented by tracks, but the best shows in Las Vegas have tracks. I've got nothing against tracks, I just want the best sound. I want a big sound, I want a powerful sound, and however we achieve it, it's whatever's the best. It's like the choice of music. In some shows we have pop songs, in other shows we have original scores. I've had an original score in Newcastle for 12 years. Always, never a pop song. This year, I'm doing 2 pop songs. Because you learn from the audience. Because 12 years on, I go, I want to find something new. I think the worrying thing about pantomime now is keeping the standards up. I think it's incredibly hard to find good people that can do it. It's very easy to cast a celebrity. What's very, very hard is to find people that can really deliver the art form. And that's why we've got to keep bringing on new talent, nurturing that talent, making sure that we're working with people today who can be the stars of pantomime tomorrow. I think pantomime is absolutely at its height. Every year the business goes up. Every year more people than last year go and see the show. I think it's never been stronger. I think having things like the Palladium is getting everybody talking about it again. I think more artists are interested in coming to do pantomime and working with us. Creative people, we've got some fantastic, proper, bona fide West End creative people now want to get involved with pantomime, which I have to say 5 or 6 years ago they didn't. So I think it's absolutely up there, and long may it continue.